In this video, we're going to talk about identifying pairs of lines and angles, and we're going to use these throughout this whole unit of 3A. And the first one, if you look at our picture on the right, then you can see that there's two planes, this blue one and the green one. There's a line going through it, and there's a set of parallel lines, that's what our little triangles represent, on the first plane. So parallel lines are when we have two lines that don't intersect but are coplanar. So notice that they're not one on a different plane, that they're actually on the same plane. So then, if you look at some of the things I already mentioned, small little triangles, these little red triangles, is what we use to show that the lines are parallel. And then the symbol, these little mini parallel lines, that's what we're going to see whenever it's saying that M is parallel to N. So next we have skew lines, and these are when two lines that don't intersect and are not coplanar. So that would be points, or line M and line K. If you see they do not intersect, even if you extend them out, and they are kind of on different levels and they're going in different directions, they will never cross and they're not coplanar. Another word for intersecting lines that you might see sometimes is called oblique lines. Next we have something similar, it's called parallel planes. So that's when two planes don't intersect at all. So that would be this plane T is parallel with a plane U. Some other variations on parallel lines is we have a segment or array that's part of a parallel line, that it could be parallel if they're in parallel lines already. The line, or a line that is parallel to a plane if the line is in the plane parallel to that given plane. So what that means is if we look at line N right here, it's on plane T already, that is actually parallel to plane U as well, because the plane T was already parallel to plane U, so that means line L is also parallel to plane U. So what you're going to expect to see in some problems is we're going to have a picture like I have over here on the right, this cube right here, and we're going to ask you to find some different lines that are either parallel, perpendicular, skew, or just intersecting in general. Okay, so if you look at our picture, we want to find the line or lines that are parallel to line CD. So one of the things I'm going to do on here is I'm going to show you my line CD is pretty big. I'll go back and erase it later. And it contains point A. So the line that we have to find has to go through point A, but it has to be parallel to this first line. And the only one that actually works for is this line AB. Be careful of how you use or how you write the word A, or the line AB also. It has both lines above it, both arrows. The next thing we want to find is a line that's skew to CD, to my red line over here. I'm going to do it in blue now. So a line that's skew to CD, and it also goes through point A. So the two lines that we could do would be AG right here, because they're on different sides. They're never going to intersect, and they're not on the same plane. And AH. So AH is skew with my other line as well. The next one is we want to find the line that's perpendicular to line CD. Remember, perpendicular means we need to see the right angle in the corner of it, so those little boxes. And it also goes through point A. So the only one that will happen is right across here. So AD is the only line that's perpendicular to CD. And lastly, the plane that's parallel to plane EFG. And if you look in our picture, that's this bottom side. If you think of this as like a Kleenex box, it's the bottom of the Kleenex box. So there's the plane EFG, and it contains point A. So the plane that is parallel to that would be your plane DCB. So it's this top side of our box. So remember, you just have to use three different letters that are on that plane. So we could use C, D, B. We could use A in place of one of those. It really doesn't matter as long as you use a combination of those three letters. Alright, so in this next one, we're talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. So two lines in the same plane are either parallel or they intersect at a point. So there's different ways that they could intersect at a point. That they could be just oblique lines, so where they just intersect, or they could be, specifically, they could be at perpendicular, so they're 90 degrees to the given line. And what you have to remember is through a point not on the line, so if you look at the words up here, that's not on the line. So through any point that's not on the line, there's infinitely many lines that could go through that. Exactly one of these lines is parallel to the given lines. There's only one parallel line that can be drawn, and only one of them is perpendicular to that given line. So in our picture over here with the Niagara Falls in New York, we see all these different yellow lines drawn on here. And if you can see, there's some letters. There's C, D, A, point M is right here, B, F, and E. And I want you to find and name a pair of parallel lines. So remember these little triangles that you see on there that are in the middle of the line, those are the ones that are actually parallel to each other. That's what we see in the picture. So the ones that we can see that are in the picture is this top one, so DM or MD, and then EF. As the perpendicular lines, then we have to use, really we have to look for any of them that create 90 degrees. And you can kind of see it right here. There's a blue triangle, or not triangle, but square. There's a blue square right there that is created. So we know that BM or BF is the same name for that line, that's perpendicular then with DM. And one of the symbols you're going to see that shows that it's perpendicular is this upside down capital T. So it almost looks like it creates a little right angle in there. So next we want to check is line FE parallel to line AC. So FE is down here. Is this parallel to line AC? And we can see by the looks of it that it's definitely not parallel, but also there's no lines on there that's saying that they will be parallel to each other like there was on the DM. So that would be a no. One thing you can also think of I wrote on here is that because right up here it says that there's only one line that is parallel to a given line. So since we already know that EF is parallel to DM, we can't have another line that's also parallel with EF that's going through that point M. All right, this is one that you're going to try on your own. So using the same picture we did before, I want you to find the line, or name the lines through point H that appear to be skewed to line CD. So work it out, or push pause and work it out, and you can come back and check your answer. All right, so the line that is our CD we're comparing it to, and it needs to go through point H this time instead of point A, that the only ones you can draw through there would be AH again, and EH, and those are skewed to this first line. So next, we do have a few more vocabulary words that we're going to be using in today's lesson and the next lesson in 3.2. So first, we have a transversal line. So a transversal line is a line that intersects two or more coplanar lines at different points. So you can see these lines T down here, that these are transversal lines. The angles that are formed by this transversal line can be paired up different ways. So in this first picture, angle 2 and angle 6 are considered corresponding angles. So it's two angles with corresponding positions. One way of thinking that for corresponding positions is that we have 4 corners right here, and the 2 is in the upper right corner, and the 6 is also in the upper right corner. So they're both in the upper right corner in this situation. So the next is alternate interior angles, and each of those words will tell you something specific. So if you look at it, that alternate, they're on opposite sides of this transversal line. The interior is because they're between the two other lines that are formed. And the word interior tells us it's between the two lines. The alternate then tells us that they're on opposite sides of that transversal. So whenever we pair up those words with other pieces, you already know bits and pieces of what your definition will look like. So next is alternate exterior angles. So similar to the last one, alternate means that they're on opposite sides of the transversal. And then the exterior tells us that they are going to be on the outside, so not between the two lines drawn, but they're going to be on the outside portion of them. So the next is consecutive interior. We do know that the interior will tell us that it's between the two lines that are forming those two angles, so it's between these two. The consecutive, another name for that is that they are on the same side of the transversal. So sometimes you might see same side interior angles, that some people refer to it as that, but consecutive just means they're on the same side of the transversal instead of opposite or alternate sides. One of the biggest things that I want you to know in this video is being able to label these 4 different types of angles when you see a picture. So what I would like you to do right now is, looking at this picture, we're going to go through and do a couple of them. So I'm going to maybe find 2 different pairs, and I want you to find some other ones. So with this first problem for corresponding, that means that they are in the same location in the little cluster of angles. So angle 2 and 6 are corresponding angles. So I would like you to list out 3 other pairs that we can list for corresponding angles in this picture. All right, so what your answer should be 1 and 5. Next would be 3 and 7, and lastly would be 4 and 8. All right, so next are alternate interior angles. I'm going to go through one pair, and I want you to find the other pair. So if we look at our answer, or our picture, interior means that they are between the two lines, so it's either going to be dealing with these 4 angles inside, Alternate means that they're on opposite sides of the transversal line, and this is our transversal line. So I'm going to say angle 2 and angle 7 are alternate interior angles, and I want you to find the other two. All right, your other two angles then would be angle 4 and angle 5. For the alternate exterior angles, we are going to be, since it's exterior, we know that we're going to be using the outside 4 angles. And alternate means they are on opposite sides of this transversal line. So I'm going to say angle 1 and angle 4 are alternate exterior angles, and I want you to find the other pair. The other pair that you should have used was angle 3 and angle 6. For the last one, consecutive interior, we know interior again is using these 4 inside angles. Consecutive, the other name for that could be inside or same side. So it's the same side of the transversal line. So one pair would be a 4 and 7, so that's the pair of consecutive interior angles, and I want you to find the other pair. The other set of angles should be angle 2 and angle 5. This is the last few questions that I would like you to try on your own. So this time, instead of you're given the names and you find the numbers that pair them up, this time I want you to look at the pictures and I want you to give the name that goes with angle 1 and 5, and angle 2 and 7, and 5 and 4. So go ahead, push pause, work them all out, and then check your answers when you're done. All right, your answers for the first one should be that those are corresponding angles. If you notice already, I'm using abbreviations here. Instead of writing out the word angles, I'm using the angle symbol and then just putting an S at the end of it. Next is 2 and 7. These are on the opposite sides of the transversal lines. They're alternate, and they are exterior of these two other lines. That's alternate exterior angles. And notice again, I'm also using abbreviation alternate. I'm just using ALT. Exterior is EXT, and then for my angles is angle, a little angle symbol, and my S. For the last one should be alternate interior angles because they're on opposite sides of the transversal, but they're between the two other lines.